what we began investigating with our site is livable, walkable communities and how the surrounding neighborhood also can influence this site. So in the beginning, what we started investigating was a connectivity to the city through mainly mass transportation. So areas of the city where you could kind of create these livable, walkable communities which are somewhat lost in society today. You have the suburb where you're very separated. And so this is what we really wanted to investigate. And then we started investigating how we could create a connection between Oakley, which is here, and then Madisonville up here. And so we started looking at the walkability of the site. And so we thought, well, if we have transit along Madison Road, we'll start looking at a 5 and a 10-minute walk away from that. And our site, which is right in here, falls within that. So from there, we started looking at the surrounding community, and we mainly focused on Oakley and started looking at how the grid is laid out within Oakley. And since it's directly south of our site, we thought that this was a logical influence for the formation of the grid upon our site. So we started doing strategies about how we can incorporate the Oakley grid into our site and how that would start to work. One of the things that we looked at as a precedent was Stapleton, Colorado, and this is a new urbanist project, and it is infill. And so new urbanism is really just about creating a walkable community with a variety of services, improving quality of life, having a focused center. And so we started looking at this project, and we thought it was really ideal in relationship to our site because it's not idyllic, it's not taking farmland out in the middle of nowhere. It has to pay attention to the surrounding city, which we also do.
So yeah, we took the ideas there where they basically instead they kind of pulled the grid through, as you can see here, like it's an area of Denver, it's the old international airport that they relocated it. So they basically kind of start to pull through the same scale grid through here. In some cases they do enlarge it, but it still it all relates on the streets can pull through, and if you're driving through here you can easily just come right through here and it's not some sort of disconnect about how you can traverse through the different area. So we saw that as kind of important into how we want to relate to infilling our site. We want it to be able to relate through. But it did pose a problem because we do have this large sort of rail yard to the south that is very lightly used. We'll sort of address that a little bit later. That's how we kind of wanted to tackle that. But then here you can see kind of how our influence from the Oakley grid, we took sort of the block size here and pulled it through our site. And to try to get access off of Madison Road, which is diagonal, we see kind of throughout there are diagonals that occur in different areas. And so one way to resolve that is to come out perpendicular and then shift the grid. So we end up resolving here. It comes through and goes through an east-west direction.
I'm going to stop you guys just for a second because you, with being first, you also have to help locate us geographically. So KB doesn't know where we are in the city and where Madison Road is relative to that, so not to mention the community. So, you can come back to here just for the benefit of everyone.
Yeah. So downtown Cincinnati is focused here, the Central Business District, the stadium's down along here. And our site is right here. And this is Oakley here, Madisonville's over here. And then Norwood is up over here. It's sort of, it's not part of the city, it's another city itself. So, and these are the proposed light rail that the city has already investigated, so we kind of just took that as what would be, and they actually basically run along the interstate, so this is 71 here.
So the green sign is light rail, and then the dotted sign and the red sign?
These are all, the solid lines are light rail, and this is sort of how we can see potential of streetcar being implemented to connect from light rail stops and pull you, so it's like the proposed light rail doesn't really service Oakley or Madisonville. So
okay, so the dotted line is your intervention?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so using that as, yeah, and that runs along Madison Road.
Thank you.
Which is all up here in the university is, it's like around over here, or right here, sorry.
So when I look at the red line on these maps, I can understand that that's the light rail.
That's Madison Road.
Or that's the streetcar line that you're using to connect in the city.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the streetcar line is not the focus of our presentation. It's just so when we began approaching the site, I already mentioned that we looked at new urbanism and how it influences a community. We also began looking at form-based code, which against traditional zoning of here's commercial, here's retail, it looks at the density of a site. It also looks at things like the massing of a building, facade composition, and all of these factors to really influence a community rather than dictating what is allowed to go where. So we looked at this and started applying it to our site along with the grid as far as where we thought appropriate densities were, and then we also started defining the zones and what we felt was appropriate for the site and for Oakley. So here's our site, and right here's Madison Road, and here's Oakley. And we broke it down into 4 phases that we decided these phases based on several guest speakers that we've had over the quarter and what they thought would become available as far as land tracts and how this is the logical development that we felt was appropriate for the site. So our first phase comes directly off of Madison Road. We create a transit hub at the entrance, and here's Crossroads Church. And we create Oakley Boulevard, which would come into the center of the community. This is the densest part of the development, and so we have opportunities within here for things like service, residential, grocery stores, office, retail. All of that is allowed within this zone. We also have preserved 3 buildings that are existing on the site. We thought that these were key architectural features of the site that would preserve some of the existing feeling. And then we've also reserved...
Can I interrupt you, Catherine? What are
Yes.
those buildings used right now, especially
Right now, these 2 are abandoned, and I'm not sure if this one's abandoned or not. Do you know my building? I think it's in use just as an office, but these 2 are currently abandoned.
Images of it are...
It occupies the whole block, as you see it.
This one currently runs from here to here. Actually,
Yeah,
it runs all the way up to Ibsen. This is the more historic part of the structure.
Okay.
So we are proposing tearing down part of the building in order to create more density that can bring revenue into the
So it's like a
city.
60-foot high power plant?
This is the power plant right here.
Yeah, this is the power plant here. This the long building. This sort of like office
What
building
was it?
one end.
What was it before?
Yeah, what was it
It was a
used?
factory building. It's the sawtooth, just kind of turn-of-the-century factory building that has the traditional sawtooth with the brick facade.
Yeah, what's on the site generally?
All right, that's what I wanted to know. That's what I wanted to know. All right, which makes sense. Okay.
Okay. So we decided to preserve these 3 buildings and incorporate them within our grid. And then also we provided
When you say
for
preserve, do you really mean reuse?
reuse, correct.
Okay, good, good.
Then we also allowed for green open space, which is reserved for parks or playground or just open space for the public. And we also reserved a block for civic spaces. This can be anything from police station, fire station, library, school, whatever is needed for that spot. And then
And part of the reason why we want to preserve some is we want to kind of hold a little bit of the history of the site. And one of the buildings we really are drawn to is this that power plant building, which is either offered either side by green space. We kind of see it becoming sort of like the iconic feature and identifier of this neighborhood.
Do you know what year it was built? 1915, 25, 30s, after World War II? Do you know?
It was, I think, around World War
One.
II.
Okay. All right. That's good enough. That's good enough.
okay, so another important aspect of phase 1 is we did want to connect to Oakley. Now we have a rail here, so it's difficult to make this connection. But we thought if we can make some sort of pedestrian connection, that it would allow people from Oakley to transverse across the railroad and up into our site. So not only do you have a mass transit access here, a highway access here, but you also are able to open up for people to walk from Oakley and from Madisonville into the site.
Sorry, at the risk of being, I hope you forgive me. Which of the road is this one? Which highway?
This is the railroad right here.
This one.
Yes, this is the railroad, and then this is I-71 right here
Yes, all right.
to Ridge Avenue.
Okay. And this is Madison Avenue. This is Madison.
This is Madison Road.
Okay, Madison Road. Okay. All right.
The use is around it.